Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2020. I am Atlas, and I am joined by LS. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
What?
I was a little bit sick, but I'm back and I'm ready to cast.
What? Hang on, wait a second. Something's going on here. Please, I know it's weird to do a test right now, but just to make sure, what's your opinion on Leandri's Torment?
Oh, it's the best item in the game, guys.
All right. Okay, so it is LS. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah.
Hang on. Maybe one other thing. What is the best book in the game?
That would be Magi's Soul Stealer.
All right, good. Okay, so LS, really excited to have you along again after yesterday's sick matches that we had. We thought we were going to speed run through, but then we had a very, very long final series, which was ultimately the expected outcome, but Gen G were made to work for it up against APK, who came back in game number 2. As you can see right here, still in first place as that match score has continued to rise. T1 still in second place and will be able to join Gen G, but not their point score because there's been a few too many 2-1s here for T1. And then afterwards, Afrika versus Griffin is a huge match, to be perfectly honest. Griffin want to make it up to that 5-win mark. All of these teams in the east side of the bracket are desperate for 7 wins. If they can get to 7 wins, they should be safe and clear of relegations.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy road, though, Atlas. There's so many great teams up at the top, especially, and you've got to know that some of those teams down at the bottom still have one of these 3 teams to go up against. As you can see, Gen G has Humalife and KT, T1 SANDBOX, KT Afrika, Dragon X has Damwon, Afrika, and APK. So this is the final race to get a bye into the finals. This is how you get directly into the finals. Of course, those 3 teams at the top will be vying for that direct seed up there. And, well, it seems like SANDBOX still has a chance, somehow, some way. They probably need all these teams above them to lose.
And
they
a
need to
miracle.
win. Yeah.
100. No, they need all of the teams, like, nearly above them to lose. Or at least one team in the playoffs to lose, and they need to win everything. That's how it's going to have to work for SANDBOX if they're going to make it out. But if they beat T1 today, there is a possibility, and SANDBOX have been doing some winning somehow, some way. I'm not entirely sure how they've been doing it, but they've managed to. Summit's come back, and he seems to be on some pretty decent form, and even going down a game 2 hasn't seemed to tilt them off the planet. So, look, there's a possibility. I highly doubt it's going to happen, but still, it's a possibility. And T1 are coming off a loss against Griffin that just recently... Sorry, a loss to Damwon that just recently lost to Griffin. So, I mean, who knows what the power levels are as we have a look at the points of the match. SANDBOX to avoid relegation and T1 to head straight to the finals. And yeah, same league and different sides of the league. T1 are vying for that ticket to the ship, and SANDBOX are just trying not to drown.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for both of them. I mean, T1 coming off of that loss, as you mentioned, there's no guarantee that they're just going to come in here and sweep like they have before in prior competitions. And SANDBOX, even though they're looking good, they have to get through T1 and 2 other teams, so it's not going to be easy. And you can see the worst schedule just started for SANDBOX. T1, KT, and Damwon in a row, with Damwon looking better. You said it before, Atlas, they're really going to need a miracle, and I don't know if that's coming this spring.
I don't know either. And I don't think T1's the one that wants to give it to them either. It's going to be a very difficult task, but let's see what SANDBOX are going to be able to do here. As you can see, the stats do not lie, although first turret percentage is not great here for T1. As you can see, 9th so far in the league. They have been playing pretty slowly, to be perfectly honest. But they've been slowly playing to victories more often than not. And I think a lot of it has to do with Teddy just being so incredibly consistent at this end of the regular season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Faker also overall looking better. We'll have to see how he does coming off of that loss, though, in the last time they did play. You could see that the lineup here for SANDBOX, Punch is going to be starting, but also Summit, importantly, will be coming in here. So I think, in my opinion, this would be the best lineup that they do have currently. So like to see it here against T1.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I struggle to work out which the best jungle choice is here for SANDBOX. Of course, Punch does have the veteran status, but I don't know whether he necessarily has the skills that OnFleek does. But OnFleek does seem to be a little bit out of sorts in recent weeks, so you could certainly understand why they're going with Punch this time. T1, it's Cuz back in that main role. We did see Elim. He came back for their most recent match, but it wasn't a victory, and so it's understandable that they're going to bring back the most experienced lineup they have available to them, and that's what you see on your screen here in Cuz, Faker, Teddy, and Effort. And our key matchup is going to be Punch versus Cuz, so bringing in the veterans, both teams, but Cuz has certainly seen a better performance, apart from his kill participation at 15 minutes not being so good. And this is how Cuz plays, to be perfectly honest. He tends to do his own thing for the first 15 minutes of the game and then joins in team fights afterwards. And I'm looking to see Cuz get some more work done in the beginning of the match to try and influence the game. Because sometimes you have that syndrome where if you're a jungler on a good team, it hides all of your weaknesses. I want to see Cuz actually emphasize his strengths here as we get towards the end of the season.
Yeah, like you're saying, you can see some of the stats down at the bottom really highlight his play style. He loves to counter jungle. He's first in the league for junglers and will be getting in your face, whereas he's going up against the highest kill participation at 15-minute jungler in Punch, which is surprising. I wouldn't have expected that stat for Punch, but that's one way that SANDBOX can get ahead. You know, draft that kind of early to mid-game composition that they love, and get Punch in your face, get a bunch of lanes ahead, and then slowly just push T1 out of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see what they're going to be able to do here as we get into ban and pick for game number 1. SANDBOX will start off on blue. T1 on the red side is already LeBlanc, the Trundle, Callista, and Senna and Aphelios already banned away. The 4 AD carries have left the Rift. These are the ones that are the highest priority here in the LCK. If you guys have been living under a rock, Trundle has certainly launched into very, very high priority here. And that is going to mean the ban equals an Olaf pick here for SANDBOX, as Trundle was generally considered the pick into the Olaf to shred his resistances when he shreds them himself with the Ragnarok, and also the pillar being so strong against the Olaf that don't need to really talk about the old Trundle because he is no longer available. Cuz will be most likely picking the Jarvan here, but we'll see what Canna is going to go towards as Set is available. And Cuz thinking about going back to some comfort as the Gragas is locked away. Cuz widely known as the best Gragas here in the LCK, and that was still true when Score was still playing. Sorry to Score, he has a phenomenal legacy on that champion, but at the point in time when Score was still playing and Cuz was on King Zone, he was the better Gragas.
Absolutely. And I'm LS today, so I do not like the Olaf pick. But they do have an opportunity to pick up something like Yuumi Ezreal and, you know, get that Olaf rolling and also have a very strong bottom lane. Looks like they're going to be hovering the Zoe, which if you pick up Zoe Ezreal, that is one way to, you know, make kind of an identity for your composition. Lots of poke to try to avoid the very defensive team fight ultimate that is the bullet time, and the ability for Gragas to just, you know, present and create that kind of a team fight for the Misfortune. Very curious where they're going to go. They will actually move into the Ezreal, so the Valdanalyst strikes again.
Straight up nailing it, and I actually really like this draft so far for SANDBOX. Going to mean that T1 either needs to pick away the Yuumi or ban it, because Yuumi's value goes up extraordinarily high in this composition as well. Yuumi Ezreal, a decent lane. Yuumi Olaf, really difficult to deal with in the mid to late game. So I do very much like what they've done here. As Effort could decide to pick that one away. Of course, the Misfortune Yuumi is a decent combo. I like to call it the last time as far as their ultimates are concerned. As our Faker thinking about going towards a favorite here, as the Azir will be locked away. His win rate on that champion pretty damn high at this point in time here in the LCK, as it's his most played so far at 7 games, and he has a 71% win rate on the champion. So not too bad at all here for Faker. And also, they now just have themselves a very stable team composition, as you can see already. Looking for some physical damage from the top side of the map, as they do have a magic damage jungler. And the Yuumi, like we were talking about, is going to be banned away here. SANDBOX probably not too worried about that. Gorilla has a very deep champion pool. Although I expect the last ban will be the Tahm Kench. I know you're cosplaying some LS right now, Vandanalyst. And you're not going to be happy about the Tahm Kench, but I guarantee that if SANDBOX have that available to them, they will pick it. That is just a guarantee.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. The Yuumi ban, probably the most obvious one of the split coming out of T1. You got to take that away. Notice that the Set is also going to be banned here, taking that away from Kana and potentially even Effort, who does love his, tanky, beefy supports. So
yeah,
we'll see if
mixing
that
it up
Tahm
in the
Kench,
support role.
there it is going to be banned away.
Look, the Vandanalyst has got it, but the Atlanalist. I guess that's what we're going to have to go with. I've nailed it as well. So 2 play-by-plays make a right. That's what we're discovering right now.
Yeah, brother.
As the Jace is going to be banned away. And the Nautilus, understandably, is going to be picked up. T1 going for the most bread-and-butter draft possible. Watch for the Aatrox pick to be locked away if Summit doesn't pick that one up for himself. Now that the Tahm Kench is banned, the next cab off the rank is 100% the Braum. So Braum Aatrox would be the most LCK decision that you could make at this point in time. I'm really hoping that Summit doesn't go there, but a blind top laner, I have to feel like it's going to be the Aatrox. I'm not going to lie to you, man. I don't want to get your hopes up or anything to have any sort of fun pick involved in this game.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's Summit, it's blind pick. This seems... It's like that train that's going full speed straight into the wall, you know? It's like you can't stop it, but you know it's coming.
Mm-hmm. And it did.
Very predictable.
I hope that was like ripping off a Band-Aid for the collective in chat and not like just drawing out the Aatrox pick. We did the best that we could. As our T1 is going to go down their priority list, and they will find themselves a Renekton most likely. We've got animals in the solo lanes, theoretically, but the Lucian is going to be switched. And Kana is looking to go toe-to-toe here with Summit on the top side of the map. This is really interesting because Kana had a bit of a woeful series in their last one that we saw against Damwon. It was not the Tier 1 performance that we really wanted to see. And so, really good to see him, at least making a confident pick. And we'll see whether it is going to actually pay off, because this is a lane that Lucian can smash, but Summit is a player that can go against a lane matchup.
Yeah, and we've seen him do that before. That's part of the reason why we love Summit. He's great in his lane, even when he gets behind, which we did see last week. He got back like 0-2, 0-3, and then somehow came back to win the MVP, I think it was, of the game. And yeah, he's going to be just fine, I'd assume, but I do like the Lucian coming in with that composition. The Renekton would probably, what Ellis would say, is off theme, whereas the Lucian can scale up alongside of the Misfortune and the Azir. You've got Gragas and Nautilus to pull off the engages. Very balanced, straightforward composition there from the side of T1, whereas the side of SANDBOX, you do have Olaf Aatrox, which do like to go kind of head first, and then you have Zoe Ezreal Braum to disengage and poke, so a little bit of a lopsided composition there.
I actually really like the SANDBOX comp because all of these champions spike on 2 items. You are going for mid-game, and that is where SANDBOX plays towards, and we've seen this comp so many times. Thankfully, as we are in sepia mode, so we will be able to go straight into a Pog State podcast. Welcome, Vandanalyst. You are going to have to be my right-hand man for this one. But it does mean that we can break down these compositions a little bit more. And I do think that SANDBOX do have themselves a pretty well-rounded mid-game composition that can theoretically snowball if given the opportunity. And T1 went from their idea of having like meat shield tank on the top side of the map in the Renekton, who does do a fair bit of damage, I guess, to the squishies. Things like that also is going to be able to spike relatively early, as we do have some sort of issue, and we are going to make sure that we rectify it as soon as possible. But yeah, with the Lucian in the composition, I feel like they don't necessarily have much of a front to back with the fact that they have Azir, Lucian, and Misfortune all quite squishy. And the Gragas is not going to be building any tanky stats or anything like that. So it might be that T1 have sort of drafted themselves into this situation where they also need to get themselves ahead around the mid-gamers. Here we are, resuming the match, and we'll see whether SANDBOX can utilize this particular comp to get themselves some advantages. As I do like Punch on the Olaf, and I love Dove Zoe. Dove is one of our fringe Zoes. I like to think that there are like 4 just epically good Zoe players in the LCK, and I think that Dove shifts in and out of those tier lists quite often.
So
has some pop-offs.
Like Faker, BDD, Chovy.
Yeah. Well,
Dove.
those 3. And I guess Dove. But Showmaker is definitely there as well. So BDD, Showmaker, Chovy, Faker would be the first 4. They're fantastic on the pick. BDD is certainly showing that with his 1000th kill yesterday. Picking that one up in their 3rd game against APK. They needed to lose the 2nd just so that he could make it past the 999 mark. You can understand exactly why that happened. But Dove certainly has drifted in and out. I think that Dove at the moment is sort of fighting with Showmaker as that 4th place Zoe player. And Faker also had a lopsided performance on the champion as well recently. But I don't know whether that was necessarily on him in that particular game. As SANDBOX going for a late invade as they get towards this blue buff. But you can see Cuz nowhere near them.
Yeah, he's just minding his own business. This is going to be scouted out. So not 100% sure why they do want to put so much focus on the bottom side of the map. I'm not sure if they think they can actually dive this Misfortune with something like a Braum Olaf, but they are just going to go ahead and go top and bottom, split the map right down the middle, and have that Gragas farm out the top side. You'll see that as the Predator jungler, we've seen this route many times before, where you can go and clear your red side of the jungle and then go back and pick up boots really early if you'd like. We'll see if he does want to opt into that strategy, as he may feel a little bit of pressure to go in and invade into his opposing jungler's jungle.
Yep, vertical jungling could certainly be the aim of the game here. As you can see, full clear actually by Punch as he walks over a ward. So full knowledge here available as another hook is going to land bottom side. But no harm, no foul. Gorilla made it to level 2, so does have the Unbreakable and is going to keep himself alive. As now Canna just trying to get as much harassment onto Summit as possible. The bone plating not quite able to keep him too healthy here in this matchup, which is definitely rough for the Aatrox, especially in the earlier levels. As this is the first Olaf Punch, interestingly enough. Of course, it's an on-fleek special, so looking at SANDBOX playing Olaf makes a hell of a lot of sense. But interesting that our Punch hasn't been on this one just yet.
Yeah, and it's also the first Ezreal for Root, so definitely a guy who was known as the new Teddy, right? The guy that was up and coming on Jinair, moved over to SANDBOX and is looking to make a name for himself there. As Trouble will land here. We do have Gragas nearby, though.
Yep, he's predatoring in, but isn't going to be able to find Dove there. Dove with the move slightly to the left strategy. I liked it, as now Cuz, without body slams, going to have to flash away from Punch here. I don't know whether that was entirely necessary, but playing as safe as possible.
Yeah, that was confusing. Notice that he did go back, he picked up his Predator boots, and because he did that, he was not able to invade into the Olaf's jungle, and he's down about 3 camps right now. We're going to take a look at what Summit has to say. Punch doesn't want top side. Sometimes it's a bummer, but I think he is a balanced jungler. I am also learning how to win by hanging in without much jungle pressure and attention. Although, as we say that, Punch was heading up to the top side, spotted by a ward.
Yep, you can see Canna's just going to go back to base. We'll see what he actually picks up for himself. I'd like a cull purchase right here just to make sure that he guarantees some extra gold, but instead he's going to go for double longswords, looking to try and get himself as close to his Blade of the Ruin King as soon as possible. As our lifetime win rate here is 76% on the Gragas here for Cuz. Rounding up a little bit, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is 25-8 is a pretty good win ratio. And you might be looking at this first-time Ezreal situation for Root, but all-time, it's actually his most played champ, so very, very comfortable here on the Ezreal.
Absolutely, and it's just surprising that it's taken so long to have it come in here. We have seen A lot of Ezreal into Misfortune, actually, you can see down at the bottom. So 11.6% of all matches in Spring. There has been, I suppose, 22 matches of Ezreal versus MF, and Ezreal is currently ahead 14-8. So I'm actually liking all these kind of miscellaneous extra stats we're getting here in 2020. I feel like it really adds to the discussion. You know, are we going to get more Ezreal dominance in the bottom lane up against MF, or does it mean anything? Is it really just because of the players that were playing the champions?
No, I really like it as well. I feel like it does deviate us away from, you know, getting those POG state conversations in, but I think a lot of viewers will be okay with that, to be perfectly honest. So I like it. I like it a lot. This Punch is going to start off this Infernal Drake, which will be the first one spawning here of the game, hoping that the next one is going to be a Cloud so that we don't have any Cloud Soul situations like you guys may have witnessed in the game number 5 of TSM versus good old 100 Thieves. Did you watch that one, LS? I don't want to give away spoilers to anyone if they were perhaps sleeping or something like that, but just go watch it. It was a good series.
Yeah, I stayed up and I watched all the way to game 4, and then I just passed out. I was like, I can't stay awake any longer. It was like 8 a.m. here in Korea.
So I did the opposite. I actually woke up at 7 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, and then managed to catch the rest of it as Summit Flash misses a Q. That is bad news, Bears, but does trade flashes with the Lucian, which is certainly good news for the Aatrox as Summit actually winning in farm as he takes away this CS, and Can is only going to lose more as, never mind, he's not winning, he's just even because he decided to miss the majority of those, but Cast a Curse is pretty real, as Effort's going to make that first roam towards this mid lane. Battlestar comes down, there's the Emperor's Divide, and has to use the barrier that he picked up for himself. The Ignite was there, but First Blood does go to Effort with that Ignite as Summit misses another Q. And now Punch making his way in to try and capitalize on the loss of Flash, but that was a great play from Faker, just making sure that he didn't leave any room. And the Battlestar very greedy there from Dove.
Absolutely. I'm just so perplexed as to why he wouldn't use his Flash right at the beginning. I saw it was off cooldown unless it was some kind of spectator bug. He could have just flashed the engage, but he really needed that really needed that ranged minion, I suppose, so that's really unfortunate. Ended up blowing his Flash late anyway. So,
I guess he was expecting Faker to flash on top of him or something like that, and understood that maybe he'd have to wait for Faker's flash before his flash was actually going to be worthwhile. So assumed that he was already dead. Let's have a look at this one more time and just see how dumb it was.
It is available. He sees Nautilus. Just flash! You see the Emperor's Divide coming out, like, you just got a flash. I don't understand. That was really greedy from the side of Dove, especially after seeing the replay. It didn't really help his case too much, Alice.
No, not going to lie to you. I entirely agree, and blowing the flash late anyway really cancels any argument of, oh, well, I was dead anyway, like I was going for, because he used it at the end for absolutely no reason at all, because he was definitely just going to die. Maybe leaning too much into the fact that he picked up a barrier with his W, but I don't know, man. I'm running out of excuses to try and make that one okay, as Effort and Teddy just going to wander up towards the river, and Punch is going to go back home, so no action here towards the bottom side, but as we can see, it is about a 1,000 gold lead after that first flood went down, and SANDBOX traded that for an Infernal Drake. So theoretically, it's a bit of a wash here so far in the early game, and that is good news for T1, a little bit dangerous for SANDBOX, because the onus is on them to get ahead in this early game to give Root and Dove the best possible chance to carry in the mid game.
Yep, all that about that mid game power spike that we were talking about with the champions that they have picked. The one saving grace here for SANDBOX is that Summit is dominating his lane up in the top side. This Lucian pick, first time for Kana in this season, and so far it has been pretty underwhelming. We haven't seen him look too well other than trying to flash away from an Aatrox. Says, okay, Ragnarok going to be blown here.
Yep, gets the flash. Nicely done.
Sorry, I'm still learning how to be an analyst.
That's all right. It's all right, Valdanalyst. It's fine. You have been back in play-by-play mode for quite some time. Also, just to let you guys know as to why it is Brendan Valdez here right now, he will be with you tomorrow as well, and hopefully LS is going to be well enough for that broadcast. But yeah, LS wasn't feeling so well. Don't worry. No signs of coronavirus or anything like that. He just had an upset tummy. and we're hoping that he's going to be A-OK. That is why you don't eat the sushi from the gas and go, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, never really was a fan of that. Although, coming to Korea and eating the sushi here was quite a nice change.
I still haven't eaten Pyeongjum sushi, which is, of course, convenience store sushi, just because of that stereotype. I'm just not going to do it. The kimbap, however, amazing. 100% always will do that.
Convenience store food here, pretty good.
What was that? As now has to flash away from Cuz. Gorilla ulti there, but Effort blocks the majority of it. Trouble Bubble will land onto Faker, so he's unable to step further forward. Undertow doesn't find the mark, and SANDBOX walk away with that extra vision available to them and the money of the Rift Scuttler. So I guess, theoretically, coming out the better for the trade. Although, Punch did have to flash, and Cuz did not have to.
Yeah, so seems like SANDBOX is just going to make their way over to Shelly here, take that down. You see very sad Kana up in the top side, losing priority on the Lucian against the Aatrox and saying, well, I guess I'm just going to farm under my turret and try to scale up. That's not looking so good for him. He's going to have to hope that his team can handle this Aatrox because still, SANDBOX in the mid game can absolutely win some of these team fights if they get a good engage, especially some kind of like a teleport flank on top of the MF would be perfect from the side of Aatrox. If you run straight into MF Azir, I think you're just going to lose even at the mid game. But you got to be really careful about how you engage into that composition.
Well, it's definitely not how SANDBOX are wanting to play out these fights. It's all about controlling areas, utilizing the bubbles, and getting themselves into an advantageous fight position where Summit and Punch can just pull the trigger when they have got enough poke damage down. So I'm glad that you brought that one up, Valdanalist. Certainly not going to want a front-to-back team fight against the Azir Misfortune. As now, Effort seems to have found Gorilla. Root not going to be able to offer too much damage back there, but there's the stand behind me from Gorilla. And now Summit diving in onto 3 people. Flash out from Teddy is now Effort going to be Summit's target. Punch is moving on over though. Dove running extremely quickly. But thankfully there's a blast cone, and SANDBOX are unable to find any of the T1 members.
Yeah, they trade a teleport here for 3 flashes. I suppose the exhaust was also used by Gorilla. But overall, I'd say a pretty nice little fight there from SANDBOX. The unfortunate thing is that right now, there's not much on the map to get, as there's no Drake. In fact, it is going to be Cloud Soul.
Yeah,
First one starting it off really sadly here for game number 1. And with that teleport, they're actually just going to send the Ezreal and the Braum top lane.
I actually quite like this.
Yeah.
Because what that teleport did was gave lane priority back to Kana once again. But now Punch moving on in here is just going to soak up the culling, and that was just a gifted kill over to Kana. All the rest of the abilities are going to miss him. And welcome back to the game, Kana. You've been given another opportunity. It's called a get out of jail free card, and it was delivered to him by the enemy jungler.
It's a nice little gift. It's when you land on community chest and it's like, oh.
Yeah. No, I think that was like a chance one though, you know, because chance is like so often just really bad. But Kana's like, oh, I got like the one lucky one out of chance. Hell yeah.
You collect your taxes that you didn't know, your tax refund that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, exactly.
Income tax, and collect baby. $200. I guess my lane is fine now.
Yep, and Punch went straight to jail. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. In fact, donate $300 over to your opponent. As he's going to face check once again. Undertow is going to land, but only onto Effort as he takes a... I was going to say a rude word there.
Baker just tried to Emperor's Divine Shelly, but it did it too late. Cuz is going to die.
Oh, nice work. Snipes off Cuz there. That's a Jin 80 carry for you guys. Finding it in the clutch. And we do need to talk about that. I mean, that's a storyline right here. I know it's the second round robin, so we've had this matchup before, but Teddy versus Root, I think it might have been Leo. And it's interesting because both 80 carries have stories in this particular match. Leo, of course, formerly a substitute for T1, and now Root coming up against Teddy for the battle of the Jin Air substitutes. Yeah, this was the donation. Thank you very much for that one, says Kana. And now Punch takes the majority of his health buff. Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Monka.
I'm not sure if worth.
Yeah. Well,
did a bit of damage to Shelly, I guess.
Sometimes you just want your R button on cooldown, you know? That was a silly Billy maneuver.
Well, I suppose he's got it back now.
I guess now he's just learnt that that doesn't work on Shelly. There you go.
I think it does if it's before she channels her charge.
Yeah, but once she starts, I don't think you can stop her with almost anything. So she's gonna go. And she's not like Damwon, who don't want to go. She really wants to go.
Yeah, she's going. Doesn't matter if she's gonna die at the end. Sad story for Shelly every time. But she does her job.
And normally T1 pretty good at Shellys, to be honest. I mean, they've had the best Shelly possible so far. Actually, not the best Shelly possible. Could have taken a second Nexus turret, I think. But it otherwise took from outer to last remaining Nexus turret and charged everything all the way there. So that was very impressive. However, that was just a bit of a botched maneuver. We're going to stop harping on about it as T1 still retain their 1,000 gold lead as Summit finds Canna here towards the bottom side and will spot Cuz making his way in. It is a 3-man dive as also Faker making his way in. The Summit does have Flash available, but there's the Emperor's Divide already. Cuz is being taken down. 100% worth there for SANDBOX. They will lose a turret, but the turrets are traded. And now Root in this mid lane trying to push this one up as well, as Dove and Punch will deal with this minion wave and take down this economic turret, as LS likes to call it, and get themselves some extra gold in their back pocket. Canna up here as well is going to be pushing an inner, but Faker just going to take matters into his own hands and will take down this Cloud Drake, which will give T1 a slight advantage if you think Cloud Drake is any sort of objective to take, which is debatable, to be perfectly honest, especially on this broadcast.
Especially just the singular Cloud Drake. Like, if that were... The only good thing about that Cloud Drake is that it gets them one closer to Cloud Soul.
Yeah, true.
That's kind of what we've broken it down to here on the LCK broadcast. You can see in this replay, because he gets hit by the Infernal Chains and he has turret aggro, just a little bit of a botch dive. You got to be careful that if you're going to take the aggro from the turret, you have a means to get out. But the Infernal Chains was just really good from Summit, so he identified that Cuz was going to be the one taking the aggro. He locks him up and flashes on him as well to do that extra bit of damage, and is able to turn that into a 1-for-1 under the turret. So not half bad. SANDBOX going to take that time. They're going to move over, take over Shirley. And we'll see what that gets them here. Maybe the tier 1 in mid. I think that'd be the best objective for the Shirley at this point in time.
Could imagine, as looks like Faker did have a few friends attending the top lane, but isn't going to be hit by the trouble bubble and is therefore going to survive. Control ward removed by T1 here, top side of mid lane, and SANDBOX will just utilize their Ezreal composition to park him here in the mid lane and make sure that that outer turret takes as little damage as possible, as an Ezreal does want to do at this stage of the game. Certainly understandable. That gold lead has not moved since the first blood went down. And so still some posturing here as Dove picks up the ideal hijacked item, but at level 12, not a good Zoe. That's just, it's not early enough. Level 4 is generally what you want. That's called the Chovy Special. He's always able to roll that one no matter what. As Canna going to get knocked up here as Summit looks for it, doesn't find the Infernal Chains, as does get the last hit of that Q, as now Gorilla's going to make his way down. Summit with the World Ender should be able to get this one done, and that is the bounty gold going over to SANDBOX's King of Aatrox on the top side of the map.
Yeah, and especially after that kill. By the way, I'm not even sure if he needed Gorilla there. Obviously, the Guardian does help, but he was getting a lot of lifesteal, obviously, through his passive. So it was going to be close, but Gorilla does make it 100%, of course. But getting this Aatrox big and fed, and even the Zoe and Ezreal farming pretty well. We got another team fight here, though.
Yeah, there's the Dredgeline that comes out. Unbreakable looking to try and get Root out of there. Brilliant cast from Cuz, demonstrating his skills on this Gragas. It means that Gorilla has nowhere to go, and a double kill lands in the lap of Teddy. This is super good for T1, is now Dove looking for a paddle star, but not going to get it onto effort there. Not enough vision available as he gets himself underneath this turret, and they should be able to defend it. There's Teddy taking a bit of damage there. Punch still hanging around, and as he lands these undertows, it gets more difficult to siege this turret. So Not going to be able to gain too much, but the bottom lane now eradicated from the map as we have a look at this one more time. And this, guys, requires a bit of a PSA. If you're going to be fighting Aatrox at any point, and you are a ranged champion that is a physical damage dealer, there's this item in the shop that you can purchase. It's called an Executioner's Calling, and it means that all of that healing that the Aatrox was able to do during that fight is negated majoritively. So just a bit of advice there. Canna probably would have liked to do that, but this was just beautiful work from Cuz. I'm glad that we talked him up on the Gragas. He's had some, left and right performances, missing that first body slam, but that was certainly brilliant out of Cuz.
Yeah, it was once again Punch kind of baiting his team into an awkward spot. This time he actually did some damage to his teammates because they were trying to get in there and save the Olaf, who, he's got Flash and Ragnarok. I think he's going to be totally fine. But it gets him into a weird spot. T1 excellently, skillfully were able to take advantage of that. Not even sarcastically. I think their engagement was quite good, to be frank. And they're able to do that as we got another fight here. Kana, this time, he's running away.
Yep, he got the memo. He needs to go back and purchase that Executioner's Calling before he goes for any sort of 1v1. Summit building towards his Death Dance very, very quickly. Only has to complete the recipe before that one is put together. And he's the one now with the bounty on his head. 500 gold if you're able to take him down. Not bad at all. He's now Teddy. Just, we've got bottom lanes in the mid lane, just trying to siege down turrets. But the outer has already fallen in favor of SANDBOX. And this is like the bare minimum for what they needed to achieve at around the 20-minute mark. They wanted to open up this map. They still need to take down the bottom outer turret, but the wider this map is and the more they can promote fights around the jungle with their Zoe, the happier they are going to be as SANDBOX move over to their first Cloud Drake, and they should easily be able to take this one down as Faker is split pushing on the top side, and T1 are going to trade it for the mid lane outer turret. And I'd take that if I was T1, as I don't know, may not be able to grab this. As the barrel underneath the turret, not going to be able to do too much, as Gorilla still hunting. But Dove not going to find any paddle stars or anything like that, and T1 just makes sure that that turret is very close to falling down.
Yeah, I mean, they were probably eventually going to take these turrets, but the fact that they're trying to scale and get as much gold as fast as possible means it's nice to take those early on as possible, and the fact that SANDBOX moves over their entire team to take the one Cloud Drake when there's still two more away from a Cloud Soul, which is underappreciated at best, and T1 is just like, lol, okay, we're going to take the macro advantage here. We're going to take a bunch of your turrets out, do a bunch of damage. Look at Teddy. He's just going to walk in and take it. Yeah. Like taking candy from a baby right now. Mm-hmm. And after the last 5 or so minutes, yeah, Summit's a bit scary, and he's bullying Kana, but I'm not sure it's going to matter. The Olaf is totally useless in this game, especially up against the MF. Unless there's like a really broken team fight where somehow they're able to get into that back line, I can't see T1 in much of a bad spot from here.
Especially with Teddy 40 CS in the lead and accelerating towards his key items. He has the luxury Executioner's Calling. At least he built that particular item. One of the 80 carries with the correct item build against this Aatrox. And should be able to apply that pretty effectively in a team fight, as well as the rapid fire cannon is on the way. As Teddy does like this a little bit more, going for more of the crit style on the Misfortune. A lot of our 80 carries do like Bloodthirst, a third item, to maximize bullet time damage. But Teddy is certainly one of our more adept positional 80 carries, and you can understand why he's opting into more of that just straight DPS that you do get out of building that critical strike. So I like it here for Teddy, playstyle-wise, as Gorilla does find a Winter's Bite, but otherwise isn't going to be able to attach himself to anything else, as Faker moves towards the top side, and we've got a bit of a 1-3-1 going on here with the Azir and the Lucian in those side lanes. And Teddy is just so stable, he is able to hold onto that mid lane basically by himself, even with that turret missing. So SANDBOX really at a loss as to what to do right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is super comfort zone for T1. He's even going to get away from that True Shot barrage there. But, yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like SANDBOX is scrambling around the map and looking for something to do, and T1's like, what? You don't understand Season 10. You don't understand Season 10 League of Legends, guys. We're going to sit back and wait for the Cloud Drakes. We'll give you 2. We don't care. It's not going to do anything for you right now. So we're just going to scale.
This is ludicrous. 12.7 CS per minute is a just dumb number. That is crazy high. As Summit's going to die here towards the bottom side, Faker just sweeps him onto Teddy, and the Culling will pick up that kill. Summit was very dead in that particular team fight, is now looking to trade it for effort, but not going to be able to. Teddy is... he's almost Flame Horizon the clock. What the hell? Like, Root is 30 CS up over the clock right now. He's farming extremely well, and he's 50 CS behind. What?
Yeah. T1 has been just extremely efficient with how they're taking all of these minion waves, because it's not even just Teddy, it's Faker who's ahead of the clock. It's Kana who's ahead of the clock as well, even though he had a little bit of a spotty game.
That's the bigger story, is the fact that it's not Teddy stealing farm from the rest of his teammates.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Not an Uzi composition or anything like that, where Uzi just says, funnel me all of the gold, Xiao, I will not let you play the game. Like, this is Teddy just, I don't know, finding minions that shouldn't exist? I'm very confused.
It's like none of them missed any CS in lane or something. Like 0.
Actually, to be perfectly honest, if you guys find it very cathartic watching 80 carries, especially Misfortune, with a very satisfying auto attack sound, just watch Teddy play, because he's one of our players that doesn't miss siege minions. So it just feels good watching him play, as he has a 700 gold bounty already at 26 minutes into this game, and he's only sitting at 2-0-1. Rapid fire cannon now done. Double luxury items, as he also has the stopwatch, as that cannon creep was nailed by Teddy, as you can see. And this trouble bubble unable to be capitalized on, apart from the true shot barrage, which shreds Effort's health bar. That's what happens when you can't actually proc an aftershot.
Yeah, how is he so squishy? The Nautilus, okay. T1's just going to say, let's do Baron. They have
a
classic
pretty
T1
move. It's like,
damage.
we have decided that now is time for Baron. They've been doing this so often recently, and it feels like they're coin flipping, but more they're just asking for their opponents to come to them because they want a team fight. And that's how they're able to utilize it, as Teddy takes away a blue buff as well, just to pad those CS stats that he's picked up for himself. I think Teddy actually holds the record for most CS in a game. In that 92-minute game, I think he was the one with the most in the end. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was either Bang or Teddy. I'm not sure which one it was, but that record is sitting at like something like 1,300 or something like that.
Pretty sure it was Teddy, right? He was playing Sivir.
Yeah,
and they had
I think it was.
Azir Sivir.
Oh, yes. Effort. That's a whoopsie. Yeah, because Bang was playing Ezreal that game, so harder to hoover up those minions quite as easily. As there is the Glacial Fissure, just to try and deter T1 from this particular turret, as the Cloud Drake once again opted in for, but T1 say, well, we'll just take your inhibitor turret this time around. The SANDBOX are endlessly punished for their rotations towards dragons. Not entirely sure what their affinity is for that particular one, but it is bad news bears.
Effort.
Good night, Effort is going to be able to proc his stone plate, but he's definitely going to be dead. Is now T1 looking to try and stop the re-engage from possibly happening here, and SANDBOX do have a composition that can chase pretty effectively, as now Summit may have moved too far. There's the culling from safety by Kana, who gets himself out of there. Summit also trying to get out as the bullet time channeled for only a couple of seconds there by Teddy. That will deter SANDBOX for now. His backs are being channeled. Looks like T1 only going to lose effort here as they take down the top inhibitor.
I think SANDBOX might make a move at Baron here. I don't think you can. It's so risky, but they're so far behind that at this point it's like, what do you
get that Hail Mary?
You know, yeah, just throw the football and hope it lands in the arms of your teammate. We'll take a look here at the fight. T1, up until this point, we don't see the build-up for this. Yeah, Effort is going to just get caught out here because he misses his dredge line. Possibly would have died anyway. But the fact that they were just able to outmaneuver SANDBOX and then get in position to push an inhibitor without Baron at 28 minutes there is it's really indicative of just how far ahead T1 are. You know, the gold difference doesn't tell the whole story, as we've said multiple times.
Well, Teddy getting collapsed on here by Summit. He's looking for it, but there's the stopwatch, and the culling is going to be there to try and keep him alive. Teddy now doesn't have any lifesteal in this build, but as the flash comes over, he puts a bullet into the skull of the Aatrox. And now Faker gets the Emperor's Divide, but good flash from Root. Sorry, Arcane Shift from Root is going to get himself out of the way. There's the depth charge from Effort, but it's a great ulti from Gorilla. All for naught, as the Nautilus does pick up the dredge line, and then Cuz delivers Gorilla to safety.
Yeah, man, SANDBOX just, they look down and out at this point. They're getting caught out on the map, just pushing a little bit too far ahead, trying to farm it up, and T1 have the engage. They have the ability to rotate and get in their face, and now they're just pushing multiple lanes at the same time. They're going to take the turret in the bottom side, go ahead and take turret here in mid.
Yep.
With the Baron still available, they'll even take the inhibitor. Why not? There's not much of a fight being put up right now by SANDBOX.
And to be perfectly honest, I want to give player of the game to whoever's been making the macro calls here for T1, because to be perfectly honest, they've been immaculate. Just amazing. Capitalizing on every movement. As now Summit looking for this one. Sun Turret is put up as Faker now underneath it, but Summit not going to have those Infernal Chains working out as he goes golden. Teleport will come in towards the backside as Summit just going to be taken down by the Phalanx set up here by T1. And Root was thinking that this was going to be time for a fight, but they're unable to actually regroup as Bullet Time shreds the health bars of SANDBOX. And it's like T1 have a handicap against SANDBOX right now. Like, they just started the game with more stats. It's ridiculous how far ahead they are at this point in the game as they're looking to take down Nexus turrets. They've got a hot date tonight, and they do not want this game going past 35 minutes. SANDBOX now underneath this turret, but there are no more inhibitors remaining. Even Effort happy to step up with barely a health bar. Cuz as well, as there's Emperor's Divide swiping the floor with this SANDBOX roster, and only Dove is remaining. He'll have to watch his Nexus fall down from the Death Chamber as Faker finishes it off with a triple kill. Beautiful stuff there from T1, and just some pretty great just shot-calling decisions made by this squad. I know we expect it from T1, but after coming off that loss against Darmon, we thought maybe T1 would be struggling here and might, you know, not be the raid boss we were expecting, but I guess we're going to have to eat those words very, very quickly here in this series.
Yeah, I don't know what T1 had for breakfast today, but, you know,
Minions.
they absolutely
did not,
and
Teddy
they
was a
absolutely
hog.
did not have to end the game right there. You know, there was Baron available. They were so far ahead. Old T1 would have said, you know, guys, we don't have to push these turrets or inhibitors. Let's go back. Let's buy our items, control vision, slowly take Baron, and then push it down at 35 minutes, take all the inhibitors. But no, they were like, no, we're just going to kill you right now. And they did not waste any time. And once it hit that tipping point, I think the second that MF got that double kill and Root died in the river up near Baron, at around, 21 minutes, I think it was. I think that was the end of the game. T1 were like, nope, we just got our 80 carry 2 fed. We're going to be even stronger than you are in the mid game. And,
Can you put your Teddy vote in, please? You haven't put your vote in yet.
Oh.
You know what's really dangerous? We now have 2 play-by-plays doing the POG vote.
Yeah.
This could be really dangerous. Maybe we should mix it up every game. I got Teddy this time, purely because of his CSD. I'm not going to lie to you. Because actually, I kind of want to give it to Effort because I think he makes a lot of the shot calls here for T1. And I think that his decision-making was just so good this game. Or whoever it was that made all those calls.
Yeah, I'm going to give my vote to Teddy, too.
Hey, there we go.
I don't know. It didn't really feel like there was one player who was the person that was making it all happen. Like, Cuz got dominated early on. Effort had a couple of good early engages, so maybe it should have actually been Effort. But, yeah, it was kind of just T1 dominating SANDBOX as a team. It wasn't really just one player that stood out to me that was better than the others this time around.
I want to give it to Teddy purely because this game just felt like a masterclass in how to win the game without ever really needing to flip a coin or take a fight. It was not a skill check type game. This was we just make better choices than you and you're going to lose. And I just felt like there was never really an opportunity for SANDBOX to do anything in this series. Even though they were able to get to a mid game where they're on relatively equal footing, they broke the mid tower very early on, which is exactly what their comp wanted to do. But after that, just no way in. they weren't able to do anything.
Yeah, and this is when they're so far behind this last fight. It's like, well, we're going for teleport flanks, but we would have loved if we could have set up lane states and deep wards to try to pull this off much earlier on in the game rather than Punch getting caught out multiple times and then kind of just getting, you know, your AD carry caught, your support caught, and getting too far behind for it to matter.
Yeah.
As you can see, there was power within their kit. You know, Zoe and Ezreal were hitting really hard, but it was just too little, too late. They had gotten too far behind at that point.
Yep, straight up. As you can see, Canna did a lot of damage, as did Teddy. Doing 6,000 more than an Ezreal in a game that only lasted 30 minutes is definitely impressive. Faker also out-damaging the Zoe just shows exactly how little SANDBOX were able to play their style of League of Legends with the composition they put together. And look at SANDBOX's Drake. They got to Soul Point, Valdez. Congratulations. And guess what they lost?
Yeah.
The game because of it. That's what they traded. They traded Soul Point for the game. Probably not worth, especially when it's a Cloud Soul.
Soul Point. It's like those individual Cloud Drakes. I would be on the team that's saying, like, yeah, let the enemy team take the Clouds. Who cares? You know, we're going to get turrets. We're going to build up our gold. We're going to.
Do you want to outro? You should outro.
Sure.
Go.
This is LS. We're sending you off, guys, to a break. We'll go to game number 2 after this.